Alrighty, let's jump over to our server and let's get it set up. Somehow it has many less properties, in my opinion, than before. I don't know. Hold on. Yeah, I think it does. Private. Not really using this thread to cancel or abort, but I'm leaving it in there for anybody that wants to experiment. I changed our current client, which is what we called it in the last tutorial, the last playlist, to last client because it makes more sense. Fat fingers. Still think back to high school and typing class on those old mechanical typewriters and being so happy when I just got one mistake at like 60 to 70 words a minute. And now I'm happy with just 20 mistakes at half that many words a minute. So, here's our list of users. We will send them out every time a new user gets logged in. It is read-only. I guess I could just copy and pasted these from the other form. We still have to put our code in our forms, but then things will start moving much faster. I've already been told I talk too slow, so I'm trying to speed things up a little bit because I know I'm from Texas. And maybe I do talk a little bit slower. That's not convenient. I was also told that I shouldn't post all these in one day because it messes with YouTube's algorithm. I guess I'm not very obedient. Okay. Need the get address right there. Let's see here. What all do we need? So let's go ahead and stub out the listen and the listening worker. Then we'll put a start listener right up here, or start listening. Do you want it to run in the background? You could do a thread pull over here like we do in the client. Just two different methods to do the same thing. You could use task and actions, all that good stuff. About to copy double things there again. The reason we named the IP address IP-add up there is because there is a class named IP address. So we don't have to fully fill out the whole namespace or we would have to fully fill out the whole namespace if we named our property IP address. So we're getting our host entry. Who is the host? Who is this IP address? Here we are going to use a thread pool. Okay, and that is listen I think it's almost identical to, or is identical to what it was before. And while our listener is not null, we're going to keep that connection open. You could also use sockets instead of the TCP client. And that is supposed to be better for some situations. Okay. We don't have this method yet, but we will in a couple seconds. Alright, a little bit longer than a couple seconds, but we have it now. I've increased the size of our byte buffer up to 4K. Still very small. See, I like to put the brackets in the using, and it's going to try to get me not to. It already is right there. And I just like them because they help split things up. And I try to do these modern things that are so important to some people, like making my code very confusing. I know how important that is to some people, but I just can't do it. Just rambling on right now. Just grab a catch-all right here. I'm not worried about it. Alright, so if you go to the MSDN and grab the example there, you will discover that if you don't do this loop, the connection's going to close, like I talked about before. And therefore, every time the client wants to, well, the host, the server will lose the ability to talk to the client, except when the client talks to the server. And that would need a relationship counselor. And we don't need that. So every time each client that calls in gets this loop, and since this is working in another queue, we can actually, with this following loop, set the current client to the current client. And I find that kind of neat, because every client will have its own loop. In other words, our data would be just all over the place. Jeez Louise. Come on. I know some people love var. I use it only when I really need to. Memory stream is not in here yet. Create a memory stream around a data buffer, because that's what we're going to read. There you go. And we're asking our client here, what are you talking about? So we're not going to have our current user until we go to do the login, but I'm trying to get us to a quick test. We don't have send message yet, but we will in a second. So we're going to actually tell each client who sent the message. Absolutely awesome. If I do say so myself. Am I still inside that same function? Yes, I am. Stop that. There we go. Void send message. It's amazing. It feels like this tutorial is so fast. I'm looking at the time, and it's almost as long as the client one. How many clients do we have? And we're going to use a binary writer. At any point in time that our message, if you're going to allow your messages to be greater than 4096 bytes, which is totally possible. I think that's smaller than Twitter, actually. You need to increase the size of the buffer. For us right now, that is just fine, though. And we're telling the client that we are sending just a message. That's why we're writing 0. Then we're writing the message, getting the array buffer, the memory string to memory strings array buffer, and I am proving that my fingers are very fat. And now we're just going to send this message to every client out there. Every client that is connected. Now the funny thing about this chat engine, when we get finished with it, you don't actually have to log in to send messages. And if I remember correctly, there were some games that actually had a problem because they did it that way. So people could just like spam everybody and you had no idea who it was. This is at the beginner's level. For your game, your job. I mean, I've written chat engines for jobs. You know, I've worked a lot in the oil and the gas industry. And I worked a lot in the insurance industry. And there's a lot of reason for chat engines. So if a client is dead, we're just going to get rid of it. Okay, we should be able to be ready to jump over to our forms and get them in place. They're going to go really quickly. And then we'll run our first test. Then we'll go go back and start moving our actual 2D game, very low-mo. I think 1980. 1980 might be a little bit better than what we're going to write. But it will show you the principles of sending information between the clients via the server, sending position, and using the binary writer and reader. If you got something out of this, like and subscribe. God bless. See you in the next video.